Hello and welcome to the June 2026 edition of Virginia Wine and Song, the Virginia Wine and Winery channel on YouTube, where I talk about Virginia wine and a Virginia winery, paired with what I consider to be an underrated piece of music, a piece of rock music or pop music or whatever you want to call it, R&B from the classic era, which I have defined as between 1964 and 1999. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it because I only have about 14 minutes. I'm trying to make these videos a little shorter than they've been in the last year or so. So anyway, we're going to go right into it. And it's now the beginning of summer of 2026. And it's perfect summer weather today. It's kind of partly cloudy and rather humid, not too terribly humid, but a little humid. Looks like there could be a storm coming a little later. Hopefully nothing really serious because the storms around here can be kind of crazy sometimes. So anyway, I'm going to talk about a winery. Now, this was kind of, I don't know, I grabbed this wine off of my rack and I thought, okay, well, last month I talked about a winery called Fox Meadow. And there happen to be three wineries in Virginia that have the name Fox in their name. At least, well, there were three, now there are two, because Fox Meadow has changed its name to Accord Winery. So I'm going to talk about the other two Fox wineries, I think, now and next month's installment. So for the month of June, I'm going to talk about a winery that's not in Northern Virginia. It's actually down around Afton Mountain, the Afton Mountain area, which is a little village that's between Waynesboro and Charlottesville in Nelson County. Very scenic, a beautiful area. There are a lot of wineries around there. The Nelson County alone, I think, has about 7 or 8 wineries there, and the number keeps growing. Every time I drive down there, there's a new winery that's opened. So this winery is called Flying Fox. Again, I'm kind of concentrating on the fox theme here. And this winery has been around since, I would say, since like 2007 or so, 2008. The original owners were actually biology professors, I believe, from UVA. And they owned the winery originally, and they were in a little cottage that was right off of one of the main highways down there. They sold, I think pre-pandemic, they sold to the family that actually runs Veritas Winery, which is right up the road from Flying Fox, and the son of the owner of Veritas owns or makes the wine for Flying Fox. And their wines are really good. I mean, you can't go wrong with Virginia wine in general, I think. I mean, I'm biased, of course. This happens to be a rosé. I picked rosé because rosé is perfect. Again, it's a dry rosé. It's perfect for the summer, especially if you chill it. I pulled it out. I had forgotten what I got when I was there. I was down there about a month and a half ago, and frankly, I thought I bought a Viognier when I was there, but I was surprised when I pulled it out of my rack, and it was a rosé. And rosé is perfectly good. Viognier is a wine that they do offer at this winery, and their Viognier is good. They have, again, I don't really want to even go into what the wines are because they're the usuals. I mean, the usual suspects: Cab Franc and Merlot. They don't have a Chardonnay, but they have I believe they have a Sauvignon Gris, which is like a Sauvignon Blanc mixed with Pinot Gris. Very interesting thing. They have a trio, which I think is probably their best red they have. It's a trio. It's a mix of Cab Franc, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. And a lot of these wines they had when they had the original owners, when the original owners were in place. And it's possible that Veritas was making the wine because I don't think the owners, like I said, they were biology professors from UVA. I don't think they were making the wine. I think they just owned the winery, and they sold it, like I said, to the son of the owner of Veritas. So they also have a sherry, and I've never seen a winery in Virginia do a sherry. They have a sherry there, and if you know what sherry is, it's kind of a liqueur type thing. But this is not really wine, but I do want to make a mention of this. They also have a lineup of vermouth. And vermouth, to me, is something you add to a martini or Manhattan. It's a mixer. It's not really. I would never call vermouth something that you drink alone. But this vermouth apparently is flavored with different types of brandy, grape brandy. So the grapes, I guess, are from the vineyard, and they turn the grapes into brandy, and they use the brandy to make their vermouth. Usually when I go there, I go for the wine, but one of these days I will try the vermouth because, like I said, I think I've only had vermouth in a mixed drink. I've never had it as something you drink, by itself. So anyway, Flying Fox. This is their current label. I wish I had a bottle from the original owners because the original owners, their bottles were a lot more whimsical. They had one of their table wines. They had a series of table red and table white wines, where they were called Flying Fox, and they were just basically everyday wines you could drink. But they had really interesting artwork on them. One of them, because they were called Flying Fox, every label, and they rotated them from one year to the next. Every label had a cartoon fox and some mode of flight. So he was in a biplane one year. The next year he was in a zeppelin or a blimp. The next year he was in a hot air balloon. The next year he was shot out of a cannon. Really interesting. He was on a hang glider, I think. So I miss those. I miss those really whimsical labels they had. They were only on, like I said, their table reds. I think table whites and reds. They joined forces with an artist in the area who did the cartoons. And I mentioned that to the person working at Flying Fox, and he didn't remember that. I don't think he was even drinking age when the original Flying Fox was around. But anyway, Flying Fox is a good alternative. Like I said, there are a bunch of wineries down there. I don't need to name names because I'm just talking about Flying Fox for this particular installment. But you can't go wrong. Nelson County, and also if you like beer, they used to call it the Nelson County Beer Trail, but now it's the Wine and Beer Trail, and now Vermouth. And I think they also have a cidery, and I believe they even have maybe a meadery down there. So Nelson County, really cool little county, pretty rural, even though it's close to Waynesboro. It's close to where the Blue Ridge Parkway and Skyline Drive join, which is right outside of Waynesboro. There's a really cool pedestrian tunnel there called the Blue Ridge Tunnel that used to be a railroad tunnel that was built in the 1820s, even before the Civil War. At the time, it was the oldest railroad tunnel in the country, and now they have renovated it, or they've refurbished it, or whatever the word is, and they've opened it to pedestrians. It's about a mile long. Great thing to do. Bring a flashlight. Anyway, shout out to the Afton area of Virginia. Now I'm going to talk about the music, the album. I've got 6 minutes and 51 seconds. I'm timing myself because, like I said, this new camera shuts off, I believe, after 14 minutes. So I want to also make it snappier. I don't want to drone on. So I'm going to talk about what I consider to be an underrated album by this particular artist who needs no introduction. His name is Paul McCartney. And believe it or not, yeah, he's put out so many records. He even has a new album coming out now. I think Paul McCartney is pushing 80, if not 80. And here he is still putting out new albums. Of course, his albums are streaming, I think, because Paul McCartney is, one of the originators of the rock and roll era, the classic era, I think. So he probably still puts them out on CD and vinyl, possibly. I know you can stream them. I don't know the new name of I don't know the name of the new album. I should probably look that up because I should mention that. Paul McCartney, new album, taking up precious time by looking this up. But I want to give a shout out because any classic rock and roller who puts out new music needs a shout out. The Boys of Dungeon Lane is his new album. The Boys of Dungeon Lane. Anyway, this album goes back to 1971, and this album is really underrated. If you're a fan of Paul McCartney and the Beatles or the Wings, even you may have mixed feelings about this. You either like this album a lot or even love it, or you hate it. This album really was, I don't think it was meant to be a proper record. He was basically auditioning different musicians for Wings. He hadn't formed the Wings yet. His first album was just him, I think, and Linda. He didn't have a proper band. He just had backup bands. I guess he wanted to put together a proper band and actually have a name, and they called the band Wings, and this was the first album they put out. And like I said, you listen to it, it almost sounds like it's a band that's, just auditioning, and they're putting together some really interesting songs. Mumbo, and even the song titles are unusual. Mumbo is kind of like a jam. Bip Bop, which is kind of a throwaway song. Bip Bop, bip, bip. Paul McCartney put some throwaway songs out there. The song on here that was kind of a radio, it wasn't a hit, but you heard it a lot on album-oriented rock stations at the time, was called Tomorrow. Tomorrow is a really great song, and Tomorrow could have easily fit on, some of his later albums. So this is Wildlife. It's a great summer album. The cover actually has them wading in a river or a stream or creek, and of course Paul's got his acoustic guitar there. This is an original. I believe this is an original pressing. It's on the Apple label, and it's even got the original cellophane. Sometimes when you buy a used album at a used record store, the original cellophane is on the album still, and this album has the original cellophane on it. And of course, when you go to a used record store, you always got to pull it out, and they expect that to check out the vinyl. This is in pretty good shape. I played it once or twice. It doesn't have any pops on it. It has a couple of cracks, but nothing distracting. You just wipe it down with some, record cleaner and a towelette. This is the Wings label, so it was on, not the Wings label, the Apple label. It was on the Apple label, so their own label at the time, 1971. Like I said, kind of a audition. There's a great song on here, the title track, Wildlife, which goes on for about 6 minutes. Yeah, it's about 6 minutes long. And it's, again, don't expect Band on the Run, don't expect Ram, don't expect even Wings at the Speed of Sound, don't expect anything really slick. This is acoustic, really raw, and I think it's wonderful. I think it's really just a delightful record. It was re-released, reissued, remastered back in 2005 or so. Like I said, Paul McCartney has never stopped putting out music. He puts out an album like once every 2 or 3 years. To a guy who is almost 81 years old, putting stuff out is just unbelievable. Anyway, Wildlife, match it with some Flying Fox Rosé. And before I adjourn, I just want to say I've decided, since I focused on Paul McCartney's solo, I already did the Beatles. I shot a video on the Beatles about a year and a couple of months ago. I am now going to, the next couple of videos are all going to be dedicated to solo Beatles. So the next 3 videos will be solo albums by the former Beatles members. So we're covered for a couple of months. If you don't like the Beatles, sorry, just watch my pitch about the winery, and then you can cut it off. But if you love the Beatles, and who doesn't love the Beatles? I mean, come on, tell me the truth here. You're going to like the next couple of installments. And I haven't decided who I'm going to focus in July. It's obviously going to be Ringo or George or John. Wait and see. Anyway, thank you for watching, and enjoy some Flying Fox Winery. I hope I didn't call this Fox Meadow. Flying Fox. And of course, next month, I'll probably have a Fox wine as well. See you later.